Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Oh man, I cannot wait for you to listen to today's podcast episode. And the reason is, guys, one of the things I love is opportunity. Like that just opportunity that new stuff is coming, new frontiers, and we can have adventures, right? As entrepreneurs, as creative types, as whatever you want to call it, business owner, you want to call it more of a creator, right? We can have adventures when new stuff exists. Like the internet to me was an adventure when that first started, and 95, and then so subsequently all these new companies that are being launched. I think crowdfunding in the early days with Indiegogo, Kickstarter, it's an adventure, right? And now we're embarking on another expedition, another journey. And what I'm sharing you in today's podcast is a glimpse of what that adventure can be for you, okay? So we're talking about in today's podcast how this company was able to raise over $3.3 million with Wefunder. Guess how many investors they had? They had 1,102 investors. Why is that so significant? Why does that matter? Well, if you're doing a Kickstarter Indiegogo, that's awesome. I mean, that's incredible. And I teach that with my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula. I talk about that with my YouTube channel. I talk about that with my podcast, everywhere. I'm spreading the word, my friend. But if you think about Wefunder, right? To have so little investors, to be able to raise so much, like that's just potential to me. And also hearing about the story, particularly in today's podcast episode, I think is going to be super inspirational for you because this thing is completely bootstrapped. This founder started their business in their dorm room, okay? And then years later, they end up running a Wefunder and are absolutely killing it. And it's just like dwarfing anything else that they've tried to do when it comes to the market. And not only that, but I think it's blowing up their brand as well, because now all these people are going to become evangelists for them. So I think to me, today's podcast episode is important because it does share tactics, strategies, particularly when it comes to doing a Reg CF campaign, aka Wefunder Start Engine campaign. It's also important because it tells you a little bit about that process in order to file things that are boring and legal, like a Form C, which is really just what you got to do in order to do broadcasting with your campaign. But it also will give much more feet on the ground, boots on the ground, whatever word you want to say there, understanding of what it is like to do one of these campaigns. What is it really like and what is effective, right? So you're going to hear so much when it comes to this. You're also going to learn, I think, a couple of key insights when it comes to the marketing side of doing one of these campaigns, and also what you should know going into this process and how this can pan out for you in a really profitable way. So by listening to this show, I always like to just kind of say, like, one of the things you should pay attention to, okay? Pay attention to the opportunity that is at hand. Because I'm telling you, opportunity doesn't last forever. There's going to be a point in time where it's much harder to do a Wefunder campaign. I'm telling you right now, this has happened with every industry I've been a part of, man. It's going to be harder in the future to do one of these. So if you can jump on the boat now, the barrier to entry is super low. The marketing barrier to entry is even lower, I think, than doing some other platforms. I think that this is an opportunity. So if you're interested in learning more, number one, go and check out my book, Equity Crowdfunding Explained. You can download a copy on Audible. Go to crowdcrux.com/equity audio. That's crowdcrux.com/equity audio. Crowdcrux.com/equity audio will take you there. But finally, at the end of the show, if you want to talk a little bit about your business or your startup or your venture, we can share a way to do that. But man, I am so excited for you. It's coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we have a mega success on the show who's launched a killer Wefunder campaign, already raised over $3 million from over 1,000 investors. And this campaign not only is talking about, I think, some of the cool ways that you can kind of jumpstart the economy, but also invest in American manufacturing. So if you're interested in building a more sustainable future, I think you're going to learn a lot about you're going to like a lot about today's project. Maddie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Salvador, really a pleasure to be here with you today and looking forward to sharing a bit about our experience using Reg CF and about our company and our fundraising campaign.
Awesome, man. Let's get started. You can tell listeners just a tiny bit about your company and give them an idea, a bit of your story there.
Sure. Well, yeah, first off, thanks for that really warm introduction. That was awesome. Really appreciate it. Everybody, my name is Matthew Mead. I go by Maddie. I'm the founder and CEO of Hempitecture Inc. We're a public benefit corporation that's really focused on what we believe are the most sustainable building materials on the planet, primarily insulation products derived from industrial hemp.
Very cool. And in terms of your story there, how long have you been doing the company? What made you really want to get involved with this?
Yeah, it's been kind of a long road, Salvador. I actually founded Hempitecture when I was an undergraduate student studying architecture and environmental sciences. So kind of a dorm room built company early on. At the time, though, this was 2013. So I've been at this for a little while now. But in the United States, industrial hemp was illegal. So when I was pitching at these business plan competitions that we were going to create a company that would make the future of building materials using industrial hemp, people said, "You must be absolutely out of your mind." And my belief was, hey, I think industrial hemp is going to become legal in the United States within 5 years' time. Of course, in 2018, the federal farm bill was passed, which did legalize industrial hemp and recognize it as distinct from cannabis or marijuana, which it is distinct from cannabis, THC producing varieties. We really are focused on an agricultural feedstock from industrial hemp that's planted on large acreage. So anyway, I became really fascinated with the idea of using plants to make better building materials because plants are rapidly renewable. And in that rapidly renewable cycle, they sequester and store carbon dioxide. So the idea kind of occurred to me, hey, let's start looking at building materials derived from plants so we can turn our homes and the places we live, work, eat, play into carbon storage devices instead of responsible for the large amount of carbon dioxide that they're currently responsible for. So after founding it out of our dorm room and kind of building the company over the years, we've definitely grown a lot. We've taken a lot of different iterations. The company today is quite different than the company that initially was proposed, but I think all good things take time to grow and take some persistence. And now we're at really our next critical phase, which is building out a manufacturing facility, which really was sort of the impetus for looking at fundraising through an exciting, I'll say newish,
Totally new. Yeah.
Reg CF.
Yeah, and I think the other cool thing is you're kind of going along with that trend there where so many companies I think are considering ways to be more environmentally friendly and more homeowners are also more concerned with that, right? Especially depending on, how old the house is, new ones that are being built. So I think you're really in a trend there.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you. Yeah, without a doubt, Salvador, I think a lot of people are now starting to consider the health of their environment and the materials that are around them more than ever before. People started out eating organic, and that was, kind of earth shattering and totally crazy when it first started. And now it's like, well, that's probably a good thing to do. But now people think about what they put on their bodies, and now it's, the environments that we're in.
and even traveling around the world, you see other countries that are even ahead of us sometimes when it comes to their environmental standards, right? So I really think it's also time for America to step up in that way. And it makes a lot of sense financially as well. So one question I had for you is like, you've been doing this a while, obviously, and you guys have grown a lot and you're making great sales and you're growing. What made you decide to want to introduce Reg CF, as you say it, or Wefunder and doing that kind of campaign?
Yeah, so we were totally bootstrapped up until the point of our Reg CF. We had sales, we had customers, had traction, and that's number one. Is I would say bootstrap as long as you possibly can, because as soon as you accept money from someone else, through a family and friend round or direct VC investment, all of a sudden things really change within your world and the landscape of your business. So we bootstrapped intentionally for as long as we possibly could, to the point of, we are calling it our seed round. We might actually be a little bit past, where most companies are raising their seed round, but it's because we were able to bootstrap for so long. But, we got to a point where we said, hey, okay, to really get to this next critical phase in our business, we need to raise significant amount of capital. And we started down the road of looking at conventional VC investment. And it's kind of a game of numbers. You can have 100 VC outreach messages. Maybe you'll get 10 responses and maybe one will, become your investor. And sometimes that's all you need. But in the conventional sort of VC, world, they, especially when you're early on or a seed round, they really want to, some want to really roll up their sleeves and kind of be involved and have significant amount of ownership. And we recognize that where we are going, we're going to have future subsequent rounds and there's going to be more dilution. So the other thing that we were kind of cognizant of before we picked, going with a Reg CF platform like Wefunder was that, deal flow and access to investments in early stage companies has never really been democratized. And we believe that Reg CF is a tool for democratizing the investment process.
Love
It
that.
allows people like you and me to invest in companies that could be the next unicorns, but in the past, it has only been reserved for, the Sequoia Ventures or, the Y Combinator network. And we really, we're a public benefit corporation. And part of that means that we want to do good by both people and planet. And from our perspective, allowing people to invest in Hempitecture is allowing them to share in the upside as well as the potential downside. You have to present both sides of the coin there. There's always risk in a startup, but it allows them to share in that upside or downside and really become an evangelist for your brand very early on. So, we definitely were having conversations with VCs. There's a mentality of kind of like, we're going to break you down and try and figure out everything that's wrong with your startup and the amount of time that you spend having these conversations.
Full-time job. Yeah.
Full-time job. And we were a small team at the time. And so all these things really added up to saying Reg CF looks really attractive and is a way of bringing people in and getting them excited. And so, yeah, that's really
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the foundational reasons for our decision to go in that direction.
I think too, when you're a CEO, it's like you're spending as much time on raising the money as you are on trying to grow and develop the business, which is super frustrating because you can get in the job to just raise money like that.
And exactly. And it really, you said it, Salvador, it becomes a full-time job. It becomes something that you're doing day in and day out. And there's a lot of other responsibilities that a CEO has within a company to help it grow and succeed. And it's not that the Reg CF was not, a full-time job leading up to the launch of it, because in some cases, to some extent it was, but it's different. You're kind of more in control of the process and the planning. And I think there's a lot of benefits to Reg CF.
So when it comes to that, if you have someone who's listening and is like considering doing one of these raises, what would you tell them about that process leading up? Like, what are some of the just high level points of things that they might have not consider that they're going to have to do to be able to do one of these public raises like you did?
Well, I'll kind of share our experience and be totally honest about kind of what happened with our Reg CF. I believe we had our Reg CF on the calendar for March 15th, 2021. That was like, hey, okay, we're going to launch it then. And then it was April. And then it was May. And then it ultimately became June 1st. And we realized, wow, there's a lot of planning that needs to go into this. And we want to do this in a way that is going to be well delivered, professional, clean, just high level of execution on this. And we did not think that we were ready, even though we had set that date on the calendar, March 15th or whatnot. So that's one thing that I would really, really emphasize is planning and understanding the timeline to delivery for a well-executed Reg CF.
In terms of timeline, what would you say? They're like a 5-month span or a 4-month or what?
Yeah, I would say at least 3 months. And even if you're not working on it every day, but be entertaining that idea in your mind and really start to kind of think about and conceptualize all of the steps and sort of the order of operations. There is an order of operations to the Reg CF process. And you want to make sure that you have all those operations in place and in order. For us, one of the things that it might sound kind of trivial, but was missing is, we had worked on our story, meaning at least on Wefunder, it's called the story. It's all the text that's below your video. But we didn't have our video dialed in. And we, hey, that's where people are looking first. They're going to see this video. We really wanted to spend some time on it and storyboard it out and, plan the shots and get the right videographer. And, projects like that, they take a bit longer than you might expect, especially when your core competency is not production and planning.
Marketing, yeah.
Yeah, videos out. So yeah, I would say at least 3 months, but I think we probably spent 5 months of time with it on our mind, with the idea that we are working towards this Reg CF, and that will be our fundraising vehicle or part of it.
Got it. So you got to do the story, you got to do the video. Were there any other major things that you think, someone should know about in terms of what they have to do to launch one of these story videos? Did you do any like pre-marketing or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm big on lists. I like to make lists of things that I have to do, people that I need to contact, people that are in my personal network, and just lists of deliverables. I would say that we really did spend a lot of time list building for different spheres of folks that we wanted to reach out to in terms of media publications. So we're kind of at this unique junction of architecture, building materials, and sustainability. And so we kind of separated out those buckets and we're like, who are the bloggers and the people that we need to reach out to on the agriculture and sustainability side of things and the building materials side of things. So that was one thing that we did, is we really built out lists. The other thing that we really utilized, and perhaps it's because of the millennials that we are, social media has been a huge part of our success in the Reg CF campaign. We put out videos. We kind of turned our main Wefunder video into reels on Instagram and kind of like made catchy, exciting videos and really used our networks as a means to get the word out there. And I would say that that's really important, is if you're not network building right now and you are planning to use a Reg CF, stop and build your network, because the people within your network are going to be the folks that are going to help you get your campaign and word out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, also looking at your Instagram here, I think a lot of people are like, okay, I got this product. How the heck can I do an Instagram page on this, right? When Instagram, you think of like people with cliff jumping and doing these crazy things. I think you guys nailed it. Like, it tells the story so well, the way that you have these photos and like the product and it's cutting, you see people's hands. It's really interesting the way you've done the Instagram stories and posts there.
Thank you. Yeah. Part of my background from the art and architecture world did kind of equip me for just sort of visual identity and creating things that are beautiful and eye-catching. And so our Instagram is an attempt at really capturing that. And so I appreciate that compliment, Salvador. It's something that we've worked on for quite some time to build our audience, and it takes time. So also that's another thing, is don't get discouraged when you're not, at 10,000 followers right off the bat. All good things take time to build.
Yeah, definitely. And it obviously makes sense as well, because then you can leverage that audience, not just for evangelizing and buying your product, but also doing things like investing or sharing your story with people that care about it. So I think it makes a lot of sense there. One of the other questions I had really quickly on the process was, in order for people to go live with one of these campaigns, I think a lot of people are just kind of clueless of like, what do I need in order to launch here? So I know there are some requirements, right, when it comes to Wefunder with regards to like having a lead investor and making sure you have a certain amount in the pot before you are opened up to the marketplace. Do you think you could share any tips or advice on that?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you asked that, because in my experience,
if you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillright.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist. fulfillright.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately.
And that was something that was not entirely clear to us as well. And it was something that we've had to kind of work through. One, element that we really had to work through and are still working through is a financial audit. The financial audit is costly. We got bids ranging from $10,000 to $20,000 for a full financial audit, which ultimately is required to,
hit the bigger numbers.
Accept, investment. So it's kind of interesting because a Wefunder, at least, there's this threshold of you need to raise $50,000 before the SEC is willing to accept your Form C. To accept your Form C, you have to have your audited financials. So it's kind of a little bit of like a chicken and the egg thing. It's like, do I spend this $20,000 on getting my financials done before I raise that $50,000 or have that $50,000 reserved into my campaign? So honestly, I think the best order of operations would be, get most of your ducks in a row. There's a lot of legal setup that has to be done. And then once it looks like you're going to hit that 50,000, then spend the money on getting the audited financials done. The audited financials do take time though. And so you'll notice our campaign, our goal was 2.5 million. Well, now we're at 3.3 million, which is super exciting. But we also, are waiting for the SEC to accept our Form C. So investments are still kind of rolling in because we can't, basically close it because it's kind of considered a soft launch until the SEC accepts your paperwork. So I know a lot of that might be kind of confusing and sound nuanced to those who have not done this before. And don't get me wrong, I'm learning as well as we've been doing this process.
So, to kind of clarify, like you could basically launch a campaign, you could raise this money, but really you can't cash out until that Form C is filed, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you nailed it.
And on the other side, you talk about 50K as like a requirement. Do you know if that's in reservation of interest or is that in, hard dollars that are invested there in order for that process to happen?
That is in reservation of interest. And I believe that Wefunder might even be changing that a little bit. I'm not entirely sure, but that is in reservation of interest. And the reason that they do that is because, everybody who thought that they were going to have a successful Reg CF submitted a Form C.
Overloaded.
Yeah, it'd be an overload. And a lot of these campaigns, unfortunately don't pan out. So it's kind of like a litmus test of the seriousness of your campaign before they then kind of do that due diligence.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense here. But obviously you guys are absolutely killing it. So I'd love to actually just talk a little bit about what some people are saying and the reasons why they're investing. So like I was looking through some of your campaigns, you got one person here, architect in Kansas City, believes that the product is superior and sustainable, helps the planet. You got some other people here are saying it's the belief of that it's the future of residential and commercial building, investing to create generational wealth in their community. You got a ton of people here, man, that are really tooting your horn on that what people say section.
Yeah, thanks. It's been super fun and rewarding to see the comments come in and people are really, really excited about what we're doing. It honestly, for me, it's kind of a dream come true as someone who's been working on this company for so many years to like really hear all these people say why they're investing. Honestly, man, it gives me goosebumps a little bit just because I think it shows that we're onto something and that people really believe in this. And then they're going to go out there and they're going to be evangelists for us.
For sure. I mean, I think there's always that fear of like competition, but you even have people who are saying, hey, I had a similar idea to this, but I couldn't act on it. So I want to just be a part of the campaign, right? So even when it comes to competition, people are kind of supporting you and investing because they want to see the project be successful.
100%. Yeah, it's been really, really rewarding. And yeah, and then the other great feature of Reg CF is people are asking us questions. They're interacting with us and we're answering their questions. And so it really is kind of this two-way street I've found. It's not just hey, put this out there, invest in us. It's like, we're building a dialogue around this. We're creating relationships with people because at the end of the, if you look at a flow chart of a structure of any startup, once you have investors, your investors are at the top of that flow chart. The executives, they work for the board of directors, and the board of directors are informed by the shareholders. And part of the reason, again, that we have that public benefit corporation is because we want to benefit both people and planet. And so we're really working for our investors to do good in the world and create sustainable outcomes via our products.
Makes a lot of sense. One of the other questions I had for you here when it comes to the campaign. So you launched this thing, and obviously you've been building up a bit of hype. Were you surprised to be able to get to this kind of a number? Like, what were you talking about internally before you really went live here?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Were we surprised? Yes. We were really surprised. So we did kind of a soft launch that was just to our network. So, our email lists, family and friends. And that was done before we went fully public with it. So I'd highly recommend that. I remember the moment of sending out this to, we probably have like 4,000 people on our email list, and we get notifications from Wefunder, and all of a sudden my phone was just lighting up. It was like bing, 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 bing. All these people were investing, and I was like, wow, okay, I did not expect that. And I think within the first 24 hours, we were almost $250,000 in the soft launch phase. The soft launch phase, I feel, is totally essential for showing traction on your campaign before you then shout it out and blast it to your social media and your LinkedIn and send it out to news publications, things like that, because it builds traction. So within a month, we launched June 1st. Within a month, we were over our goal, which, to be honest, was beyond our expectation. Internally, however, and I think this is important to point out, is that we had ideas of, we hope to be here or be at a certain amount by X, but there wasn't a prescriptive formula for that. It kind of was like, we're going to put this out there, and however the market responds to it is how the market responds to it, and we're going to do our best to build traction and create excitement around this. And so, good to set goals. Don't get too discouraged if those goals aren't being met. But if those goals aren't being met, maybe then it's the time that you have to kind of evaluate your strategy, look at your campaign. I've actually seen campaigns that I've been following on Wefunder, which is another thing, is follow some campaigns. Invest even a small amount of money in some campaigns so you're involved and you kind of see the process before you launch. But I've seen some campaigns that have struggled to really gain traction or hit their goal. And you'll go back 2-3 weeks later, and their page is totally different and reconfigured, and the video is different. And so I think there is this kind of little bit of tweaking that can go on throughout the process. But of course, I think the best outcome would be for you to have everything dialed the day that you're launching it to your family and friends.
Yeah, 100%. And, it does seem to be kind of flexible in that way. It's organic, right? The page itself, where you can add things and change things, but makes a lot of sense to go in at least with the best kind of foundation that you can have. One of the questions I also want to ask you on the Public Benefit Corporation is, I don't think a lot of people know what that is. I'm familiar a little bit with it because of Kickstarter, right? Wefunder kind of has some similarities a little bit to Kickstarter, but like, what is a public benefit corporation for like the layman, and like how does that differentiate you from some of these other companies that are a regular C corp?
Yeah, really good question, Salvador. So a public benefit corporation is a Delaware specific formation. So when you are planning on being, either a publicly traded company or a company that's invested, it is really important to have the right foundation or the right structure, that is. So in our case, we initially started out as an LLC. It's not to say that you can't be, an investable company with an LLC, but investors are more comfortable with a C corps and S corps. And Delaware recently offered this new formation, Public Benefit Corporation, PBC. And the PBC basically just allows you to distinguish your mission, benefiting something that's more than just your bottom line or more than just profit. It is about, doing good for the public. And in our case, the public good is we're sequestering carbon dioxide and creating healthier, more high-performing building materials.
And the difference between this and a nonprofit, how would you describe the difference there?
That's a good question. So a nonprofit has a tax exempt status that, really they're doing, they're usually soliciting donations and deploying their financial resources for a benefit that is beyond profit. We are a profit driven company, but in reaching for our bottom line goals and generating profit, in the process, we can do good for people and planet. Whereas a public benefit, a nonprofit organization, they may be able to do that as well. But I think the real key distinction is the bottom line. A nonprofit is not about the bottom line. It sure helps a nonprofit be successful, but with a public benefit corporation, it is still a corporation. Profit still is the goal. And then the other major distinction, as I mentioned before, is that tax exempt status that a nonprofit gets.
So I got two more questions for you. The first one is, when it comes to your life, you started this in your dorm room, 2013, you had a hunch and it really panned out, it seems like in 2018, right? And you started to grow the company from there. How does this fit into your life, like this moment? Where do you see this leading? Are you trying to build a massive company? Are you going to, maybe sell it someday or go public? Do you have any thoughts on like how this moment fits into your life?
Yeah, wow, really, that's a great question, Salvador. This has been a really exciting and inspiring time in my life, and I think is sort of representative of a culmination of a lot of hard work, not just by myself, but the team that's surrounding me. And I know that I would not be where I'm at today without the team that is around me. Actually, my business partner and co-founder and I went to high school together. We've got new hires coming in that are just adding huge amounts of value to the team, like so quickly. And so it's super exciting to see all these things come together. For me, it is representation of just persistence. I have been told, Salvador, that this is the dumbest thing that people have ever heard of, and it's never going to happen, and that I should just quit and do something else early on. And now people are calling me for information and asking how they can implement our materials into their architectural engineering practices. We have customers that run the gamut from they're building a small, affordable tiny house to luxury homes where, they want to lower their carbon footprint. So all this adds up to just being really exciting and just a moment of validation for our business and where we're going. In terms of where we're going, our fundraising round is being utilized for the build out of a manufacturing facility for our flagship product. That flagship product is hemp insulation. We call it hemp wool. It's a thermal insulation that goes in your walls and basically makes your home, cozy in the winter and cool in the summertime. It helps your home be more energy efficient. So this money from the Reg CF will go to building out that factory. That factory that we're creating in Southern Idaho really is a blueprint for something that could be replicated. It could be replicated regionally, because for us to scale and grow, we know that we have to do this regionally. And ultimately, what we hope this adds up to is, Hempitecture becomes either an ideal acquisition target or we become a publicly traded company. Those are kind of the two exit scenarios. I personally feel that it might be more like that, an acquisition would occur or that we'd be an ideal acquisition target. But I also do love the idea of being a publicly traded company where we can, bring all sorts of people from all over the United States and all over the world into the fold, and they can really share and enjoy the upside in Hempitecture's future.
Very cool, very cool. And my final question for you is, and you can kind of end on this note, if you could speak directly to the audience and you can leave them with either a word of encouragement in them pursuing their startup or their business, you could leave them with a final tip, something maybe you wish you knew when you were getting started, anything along those lines, we can end on that note.
One thing that I think is kind of a theme in my personal entrepreneurial story is persistence, the importance of persistence, and you're going to be told no. You're going to make mistakes. It's without a doubt. You're going to have setbacks that hurt and make you wonder, is this right for me? Is this what I should be doing? My overall advice would be persistent. If you are doing something that you believe in and you are passionate about it, be persistent. Don't give up. And that can apply to goes on and goes into a reg CF. It requires persistence. It requires maintenance and almost like you have to cultivate the campaign to get the outcome that you want. So put the time into it, be persistent, be diligent, and then also ask people around you what they think. Ask for feedback, ask for help, ask for support. That's what we've done. And when we get that feedback, we try and take that to heart, because it really, when you get that outside perspective, it helps feed your persistence and know that you're applying your persistence in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'll be sure to link up everything in the show notes. Good luck. I mean, I think you totally killed it with this campaign, obviously, and I can't wait to see when your manufacturing facility is up and ready, and hope to see you guys in a lot more homes in the future.
Awesome, Salvador. Hey, thanks so much for having me on the show. Really hope that this helps some of the entrepreneurs that are considering Reg CF out there. Such a great tool that we now are able to use, and I hope to see more people use it. I would strongly recommend Wefunder. They've been really awesome. So thanks again, Salvador. This has been great, and have a great rest of your day.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman, and I got started in the industry back in 2012. Fun fact, reason was I was trying to do a mini econ thesis for my college at George Washington University, and I was comparing different categories on Kickstarter. And that actually ended up being what my mini thesis was about, and kind of what spiraled and started my whole journey in this industry. But I was actually, kind of fun insider fact, I was actually trying to do a mini thesis on equity crowdfunding, only there wasn't enough data to support it, because the Jobs Act of 2012 hadn't yet really been put into effect until 2015, and it was in this weird middle phase period, and there just wasn't any real campaigns that were being done, I guess, of noteworthy status that I would say when it comes to equity crowdfunding. So to me, this has been just such a long time in the waiting, and now that we are getting tons of campaigns being launched, it is so freaking exciting. Like, I'm thinking back to this, like, I want to do another research report, right, or something like that. Could be really cool when it comes to this. So I'm considering that. It takes a lot of work, honestly, to do that. I already have my book, the Equity Crowdfunding Explained book, and stuff like that, but if you do kind of want the skinny on all the things that I'm discovering and learning about this industry, and you also want to talk about how this could work for you, for your specific business or for your startup or what you're trying to do, and you're serious about it, you can always book a one-on-one coaching call with me. You can go to the link crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Go to that link. You can book a one-on-one call with me. We can talk about your upcoming maybe regulation crowdfunding or your Wefunder, your Start Engine. Would love to touch base with you. This is a new area that I am getting into. I've already had a couple of success stories that I can share with you that are super exciting, but this is going to be big, man. This is going to be huge, and I cannot wait for you to get involved in this industry. Again, my name is Sal. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, give me an upvote, leave a comment, all that kind of stuff that I usually say. And also, if you're on the podcast on Spotify or on iTunes, would also appreciate a rating or review. It really just helps the show, and it's kind of like a nice pat on the back, just for the time that I spend trying to document all of this for you and trying to help put out quality information and education. It's such a big, I'd say, value of mine. I think just because the lack of handholding that I've experienced in my own life when it comes to doing different things, I've always wanted to pay that forward and help other people if I can when they're going down the process and trying to figure out like what's around the next bend, where does this path lead, what are some of the obstacles I might encounter. When you know that kind of stuff, my friend, it's so much easier going down that path, and you feel a lot less uncertainty. So that's really the service that I provide. Thank you for sharing this. If you do, again, my name is Sal, and I will see you next time.